Welcome back. Saudi Arabia has said that it is considering cooperation with Russia and China on energy as well as on developing its own military capabilities and technology. Is this a clear snub to the United States, Saudi Arabia, and of course to Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince, Mohammed bin Salman, who has said that his country will no longer be obliged to please the US and that it will make decisions based on its own interest. Earlier, Iran and Saudi Arabia just yesterday signed a joint statement in China agreeing to resume flights facilitating visas for citizens. This Iran-Saudi deal is aimed at bringing Middle East security and stability. These are developments that are happening on the global front. To help us understand the significance of the statements that have come from Saudi Arabia, I have with me here on the program Ambassador Ashok Sajjanhar, former diplomat. He has in fact served in diplomatic missions in US, Iran and Russia. Pleasure to have you with us. Welcome, Ambassador Sajjanhar. Thanks for joining us. May I begin by asking you that, here this statement coming from the Saudi Crown Prince, it seems Saudi Arabia is making its loyalties clear that it's not with the US. If at all it's called to choose, it's likely to be Russia and China.
Like most other countries, I think Saudi Arabia would also be one of those who would not like to make a choice. But then it is expanding its options. So far it has been totally dependent upon the United States. US has been a very significant importer of oil from Saudi Arabia. It was also the supplier of all major sophisticated armaments and equipment to Saudi Arabia. When the fighting is going on with the Houthis in Yemen, it is the United States that has been providing arms to there. So I think this is, I would say, an attempt to balance the relationship with the United States. I don't think that the relationship with the United States is going to come to an end so very abruptly. But over the last several months or more than a year, ever since Mr. Biden has come, we have seen that this gradual shift move away from the United States towards China and towards Russia.
That's interesting. Are you in a way also suggesting, Ambassador Sajjanhar, that this is Saudi Arabia's way of increasing its bargaining power with the United States, given the fact that, like you said, they have a very robust trading partnership?
No, absolutely. You're very right. And we have seen that in this very rapidly changing global scenario, geopolitics that has been taking place over the last more than a year now, as far as Russia-Ukraine conflict is concerned. But even before that, when Mr. Biden came to power, we know what he had said, that he would ensure that Saudi Arabia is made into a pariah state because of the Jamal Khashoggi affair. And he'd also said that we are not going to supply weapons to Saudi Arabia to fight the Yemen war. But after the Russian aggression against Ukraine, we saw Biden coming to Saudi Arabia, having this fist bump with MBS, asking for more production of oil. That did not happen. We have seen progressively the OPEC Plus has been reducing the production of oil. It was 2 million tons, 2 million barrels per day last year. And more recently, we have seen about 1.16 million barrels, again, voluntarily by some of the countries done more recently.
Yes.
And we've also seen that, Russia and Saudi Arabia have been increasing their links. We have seen Iran and Saudi Arabia coming together at the behest of China.
Yes.
So I think there are all these indications that there is much greater movement, economic or strategic, as well as political, towards the East rather than the West.
Okay. But, you do concede that there is every chance that loyalties can shift, are already shifting. I want to draw your attention to another aspect of this, where we are talking about how there's an existential threat to Saudi Arabia and the OPEC cartel coming from China, not from the net zero or the green deals in the West, because the Chinese sales of petrol and diesel cars also apparently has fallen in terms of volume in the month of February because of the plug-in electric vehicles, which, the sales of which have only risen. So in that sense, again, is Saudi Arabia is in a bit of a precarious position right now for an oil-producing country to have this scenario where electric vehicles are now fast being preferred and perhaps might take over in terms of demand.
You make a very valid point, Afrida, but I think this realization and this recognition had come to Saudi Arabia not because of the increasing use or increasing popularity of electric vehicles. I think it was quite some time ago, and that is why Saudi Arabia had decided to move away increasingly from its dependence on fossil fuels or export of oil.
Yes.
And that is why it had set its vision 2050, 2060, that it's going to move away from there and go increasingly also, whether it is towards renewables and also go towards more of technology. That is why you see the building of the NEOM city by MBS, meaning that is his project, and also opening up Saudi Arabia to more influences, to having better relations across, and also liberalization of the economy and of the society within the country. So, there are a large number of changes that are taking place. So Saudi Arabia wants to put itself in a position that it is not caught in a, it's not pushed into a corner when, much greater move towards renewables is taking place, electric vehicles is taking place. And also, I think politically, strategically, if I may also mention, Afrida, that just last week, Saudi Arabia decided to become an observer of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization.
Yes.
SCO is a body that, came up in 2001. India is the presidency, holding the presidency of that this year. And just last week, we have Saudi Arabia King Salman signing on the decision that Saudi Arabia will become an observer. And then it wants to, I guess, I'm sure, go forward from that and become a full member. I'm sure it has good relations, excellent relations with all the member states. So
Yes.
there also it would, and China and Russia are the big players. Of course, India is also a very significant actor in SCO, but China and Russia are the original big players. So that will further cement Saudi Arabia's relations with these two major Eastern powers.
Right.
Afrida.
Thank you, Ambassador Ashok Sajjanhar. Thanks for giving us perspectives on the subject. Always a pleasure to have you with us.